dear colleagues, friends. I'm very happy to have Dr. Ma to share with us her experiences using electronic devices in the classroom. So we all know that she's a very popular teacher, and she always tries different approaches in classroom. Yeah, so and today the topic, so this is an activity co-organized by LCS and the TTG project. And today Dr. Ma is going to share with us her experience in using electronic, especially mobile phone in the classroom. The topic is using online student response system and discussion forum to assist students learning of linguistic courses. So let's welcome Dr. Ma.
Okay, thank you, Hall, for your introduction. Okay, because I think actually nowadays, I think teachers in the university are faced with some pressure, right? So we have to, try to, also update ourselves, try out some new technologies. Okay, so particularly now, I think we are facing the Blue project. So one course, one online lesson. Okay, so I hope perhaps today my sharing will have will provide some ideas for you, to help you think about how can you participate in the Blue project. Okay. So today I will just introduce two very simple technologies to you. Okay. So actually I cannot handle very complicated technologies, so always try with very simple ones. Okay. I will give you some background. Okay, relate to the course where I tried out these technologies. Okay, and then I'll introduce the first technology I tried out, I think a few years ago, is Socrative. And Moodle, I think most of you are quite familiar with, right? And I tried the discussion forum. I used it for a few years. Okay, I found this quite useful. Then I will discuss student feedback and reflection on the lessons which these online learning system, online technologies are used, and also my own reflection as a teacher. Okay. So some background about the linguistic courses I've been teaching in the past few years. So as the course title suggests, you can see that these are linguistic courses, and it seems quite technological, right? So in the past, students often complain that these courses are very theory-oriented and it's full of difficult and linguistic concepts and difficult for them to understand or digest. So the nature of these courses, is theory-driven, with lots of difficult concepts, abstract concepts, linguistic concepts, which are quite remote to students' life. Okay. So as teachers, we need to provide students with lots of concrete examples to help them to understand those abstract, difficult concepts. And also the size of my courses, varies. It varies from 30, quite a standard size, to 120, or 150 big lectures. I'm facing a number of challenges. How do I motivate and engage my students in a 3-hour lecture? And often I deliver lectures in the evening. They are MA students after work. So they have to rush to our university. They're tired, hungry, without any, energy. Okay, so I have to motivate them. Okay. And how do I explain those difficult, abstract linguistic concepts, which quite, frightened students? And how do I find plenty of examples to illustrate those difficult concepts? As teachers, we know that it's very time-consuming to find good examples, right? Okay, so perhaps we can make students contribute some examples. Okay, and I think actually the use of online technology can facilitate or can, to some extent, motivate students to do so. Okay, and I don't want just lecture for 3 hours, right? I have to have some interaction with students. and have to, after talking maybe for 10 or 20 minutes, I have to stop. I have to get some feedback from them. But when you are lecturing in a very large classroom, how do you interact with students? So these are all the, practical, difficulties which are faced by our lecturers. So I used two very simple technologies. Okay, the solution one I use is I try out open an online student response system. It's www.socrative.com. I've been using it for a few years, and I quite like about this system because it's very easy to register. Only the teacher need to register to make the registration, and there's no obligation for student to do so. So after teacher, registered account, and then there's a fixed room number. So every time when the teacher registered, there's a room number. Okay. And then afterwards, students just open the system. They go to www.socrative.com. They choose student login. They enter room number. Then they can start to interact with the lecturer. So very easy to use. I think, like many other perhaps response systems, this kind of system can accommodate both desktops and mobile devices. So they have two versions. Okay. And another good thing about this system is, after, for example, you finish the activity, after you see students' answers, and you can have an option, say, send me the report by Excel. You receive the report in different forms. I always prefer to receive the report in Excel. So later I can, edit the responses a little bit if I wish, okay? And I can see the percentages, okay, quite easily. Remember, I always try out with simple technologies. So in this system, normally they provide three types of simple question types: yes or no question, multiple choice question, and short answer questions. They are very easy, but I think they are sufficient for my purpose in teaching. So I give you some example. Okay. For example, this is a task which I conducted during my lecture. I use this after I introduce some concept to students. Maybe I talked for 10 to 15 minutes. I feel I need a break. So I would like to ask students to contribute some examples based on the concept they have just learned. For example, in one lecture for the morphology, I introduced students to meaning quite a lot of word formation processes, how English words are formed, the different, about 10, okay? So I just explain and give examples, very boring, right? So I have to stop maybe after 10 to 15 minutes. So I posted a simple question. So I asked students to contribute some new words in English or in Cantonese or in Mandarin, okay? Some new words they know. Okay. So you see, this is my room number is fixed, always fixed. The room number is when we show, okay, each time when you open this system. So for example, like you can choose the quiz, okay, right. So can you list a couple of new or relatively new words in English or in Cantonese, okay? The students will enter this room number, they can start to interact with you. So students start to entering the answers. See, start enter the answers, okay? And then they can submit answer from the mobile phone, okay? Now afterwards, what can I do? So I can show all the answers to students immediately. Both teachers and students will see all the answers posted on the desktop. Now, based on student contributions, I can conduct further activity. For example, I ask them to categorize these new words into the categories. For example, previously I showed them 10 types of word formation processes, right? Now please try to categorize these words into one of these 10 processes, right? So actually, in this case, I use student input as a source for additional activities or further activities, okay? So this is one example I would like to share with you. oh, I forgot. After you finish this activity, you just click on finish. Then you will be provided with an option to receive the report in different mode. Normally, I prefer to receive it in Excel format. So then afterwards, I receive the email automatically. I register this with my Gmail account, so the email arrives in my Gmail account automatically. Okay. Okay, so this, I just show you one example which I use to elicit student examples. And for this tutorial task, I used to have a quick check of our student understanding of the abstract or theoretic concepts that have been introduced in class. For one class, I introduced students to 5 different types of motivation models for the psycholinguistic course. You know, students often tell me that I don't like this course because it sounds quite, it seems it's related to psychology. They're not interested in that. It's too abstract for them. So 5 different types of models. There will be some overlapping between different models, right? So now I feel, well, I need to check whether they have really understood the differences between the 5 different types of models. So I posted a multiple choice question. So which types of motivation underpins your learning of English, Mandarin, Cantonese, or other languages? So they're intrinsic, extrinsic, integrative, instrumental, resultant, quite technical, right? So they have to, maybe they could discuss, they could go back to the slides, which they learned, okay? And then they can enter a choice. Now I will show you the student output in Excel, which I received in report. Okay. So this is the report I received in Excel. So for each, for example, like this is so which type of motivation underpin your learning of English, SL2, Cantonese, Mandarin, or other language, Spanish, Japanese, blah, blah, blah. Students, many of the students are learning a different languages, right? Okay. So, I mean, some is mother tongue, some are first language, some are second language, maybe another is third language, additional language, okay. So they have to use these terms, okay. Think about the terms which I introduced and try to use this term to describe the type of motivation that drives them to learn another different language. Okay. So you see, after I receive this kind of report, I can easily summarize. Okay. Yeah. So I know, actually, it's also a way to know my students. Why do they want to learn language, right? Which is actually quite related to my course. Another example. Often students say, well, the course is too theoretical, it's no fun. So how can we make the course a little bit interesting, So I think perhaps, this is a tutorial task. So in this lecture, I introduce students to a number of metaphoric language use, figures of speech. For example, like similes and metaphors. So I choose this very simple task. The similes and metaphors are very common, right? Okay, easy to understand and easy to find examples. So I ask students to provide me some metaphors or similes for love. They're young people, right? Most of them are young. Maybe some are a little bit old, it doesn't matter. But they still provide me with very nice, interesting examples. I'll show you the examples I got, okay? For example, a metaphor provided by students is very funny. It's an older student, I think maybe in his 50s or late 40s, okay? My love is a catastrophic train heading for cliffs, it's very vivid, okay? And another simile is provided by another student. Later, actually at the beginning we didn't understand his metaphor at all. So your hair is like a lion's, your eyes are like the teeth, but your lips are cyan. Actually, he explained to me, he tried to describe his wife. So that's how he sees his wife. Obviously, he loves his wife very much. This is a very, very unique simile. Maybe you disagree, okay? It's provided by a student from USA. This is a metaphor provided by a student, old student from, not older, mature student from UK, okay? And this is a metaphor provided by a student from mainland China. Want to save the top bite of watermelon slice for him, okay? I mean, they can choose to show the name or hide the names. Okay, but most of students actually, they just choose to show the names. Okay, they're not afraid. Okay, but you have the function. You can decide to show the student names or not. Or they decide, they can even enter a fake name. Okay. All right. So this is, what about Socrates? So I showed you 3 very simple examples, okay, which you can use during your lecture or during a tutorial task. Okay. My solution too, I sometimes, the course is very long, right? We are asked to teach 13 sessions. It's really long, Sometimes I think it's a good idea to conduct some online sessions. I mean, to save your own workload, and also, students will be happy. They don't need to come to the campus, to attend your class. Okay, they also have some time. I mean, to do some, well, perhaps sort of self-directed learning, but with collaboration with each other. So the simple technology I choose is the discussion forum, available on Moodle. Okay. You see that in these linguistic courses, we need to introduce lots of difficult concepts to students. So after some lectures, students still think, well, it's very complicated. Perhaps we need to stop for a while and give them some time to digest. Usually, when I conduct online sessions, I like to often I divide students into groups, make them work together collaboratively. It's also a way to save my own work. Okay, so I don't need to comment on individuals' work, right? So I only need to comment on each group's work. If there are 4 or 5 people in one group, if even there are 30 people, you only need to comment maybe on 6 groups' work. Okay, so it also saves lots of your time. And easy to arrange, easy to use, okay? I would like to share some of the design principles for online lessons using discussion forum on Moodle. First, before you conduct the online lessons, make sure students have receive some input. They have some knowledge to start with. For example, in the previous lecture, introduce some important concepts, right? Now maybe I will conduct an online session to provide time and space for them to further digest those difficult concepts, okay? And also I will upload some research articles, or not necessarily research-oriented, could be practice-oriented, okay? You don't need to upload a lot, 1 or 2 or 3. And sometimes I often ask students to choose. Even after I upload 3, I say, please just select 1 to have more focused reading, okay? This reading is related to your lecture, the content of the lecture, okay? And also maybe you can post some, links to online sources like YouTube videos, or other online resources like online corpora, okay? This kind of things, okay? So you have to provide them with enough resources before they start the online session. And it's very important that you have to provide very clear instructions to students for each online session. Usually, my way, I would just provide a document, Word file. Okay, I specify how many tasks are there, each task, what do you need to do, instruction for each task, and possible ways of collaboration among the group members. And very importantly, you have to specify the deadline. Okay. I'll show you an example later. Now, after you get students do the work, then you have to respond. Okay. So normally after deadline, I set a deadline to be like 5:30. So I will comment on it afterwards. Before, around 9 or before I go to bed, I will comment on it. Okay. But if there are just 5 or 6 group of work, I think you can handle it quite easily. Okay, you don't need to enter wrong answers. Okay, because you know you're familiar with the content. Okay, you just identify the strength and maybe some areas that need improvement. Sometimes just 2 or 3 sentences are enough. Okay. I will show this example with you. It's, the course is Comparative Language Studies, compare Chinese with English. Okay. Altogether, there are 13 sessions, so I conducted 8 face-to-face sessions plus 5 online sessions. So the proportion is very happy, right? Online sessions. Okay. Here I will show you. Okay. Okay, so you see this, session 1, introduction, session 2, okay, lectures, session 3 is online. So after lecturing for, twice, I decided to have online session. So they have some time to digest the concepts introduced in the previous 2 sessions, okay. And then session 4 is a face-to-face, session 5 is a face-to-face workshop, in a computer lab, and then session 6 is an online session, and then session 7 is face-to-face, also is a face-to-face, and then session 8 online. Okay, I'm going to show you this one. Okay, so usually you see I will post the instruction very clear in the Word document, but you can do the way you want. And then I also upload some resources for them, for example, the sound recording. Okay. And then I specify the tasks. For example, this forum is for task 1, and this forum is for task 2 and 3. It's already here. Okay. For example, the task 1, I ask them to read 1 uploaded articles. Okay. So 1 of the 3, okay, they have to choose 1. And then they have to summarize the main finding of the article and how these findings can inform students to teach pronunciation in other 2 classrooms, because this session concerns pronunciation, phonetics, and phonology. Okay. Also have to see, well, you have to write at least 300 words. Okay. So I will specify the amount of words you need to write. Okay. And post it online by latest some deadline indicated very clearly. Okay, and so task 2, this is a group work. So 4 or 5 people, work on these tasks, 3 tasks together. Okay. So after this task, after reading, is further input, right? So ask them to do something like this task. More, I think, concerns application knowledge they have learned. So I asked them to go to a website to study the pronunciation produced by a Hong Kong student. Okay, I asked them to analyze, summarize the problems in the pronunciation, and work out a plan to tackle these pronunciation problems. So this is, students will try to apply the knowledge they have learned to solve real teaching problems. Okay, again. Always I said it, minimum words to 300. Okay, I think this is okay. In most of the cases, students will write more than 300. Okay. So this is actually this is the transcript of the pronunciation, and all the problems have already been identified. So you don't make tasks too difficult, Okay. So based on these tagged text, students can easily find out what the problems are. Okay. Okay. If they want, they can analyze more examples. But later, actually, in the assignment, they used actually this assignment also serve an example for them to do the final assignment. It's linked. Some students will choose, for example, went to this website and selected some piece of recording and analyzed the pronunciation problems. So also these tasks also help them to with their final assignments. Okay. So the task 3 is very easy. I will ask them to comment on each other groups' work, other groups' work. Okay, so they have to normally ask them to minimum 100 words in a comment. Okay. Okay. I will show you here. Okay. For task 2 is design some teaching tasks to help students to correct the pronunciation. You see, student did it very systematically. So first they summarize the pronunciation problems. Okay. So basically they identify the omission of the the final consonant. Okay. Omission of T. Okay. And class reduction, like plan. Okay. The L is omitted. Okay. Okay, and then work out a plan to tackle the problems. So the teacher suggests that minimum pairs practice, okay? Give some concrete examples. Okay. Actually, you see, if you find some, the quality of the task are high, actually, in future, you may incorporate this in your PowerPoint. If you want, okay, you can make use of students, the data contribute to students, okay? Right? So these are the comments made by other group. Comments. They do not always agree. Sometimes they will point out, well, maybe there's some problem. You can still improve your task. Okay. All right. Yeah. Now I'm going to share with you student feedback. First is feedback and perspectives on using the Socrative, the online student response system. Students believe that actually this kind of sharing, for example, no matter you use the Socrative to interact with students during a lecture or during a tutorial, by doing so it can help them to have a deep understanding of the concepts. Because they don't just listen to you. By doing a task, they can access the mobile devices, they can access internet, okay, they can search some information, then they talk to each other. Often I make them a group work, even when I ask them to do some Socrative task, this group work. Okay, first form yourself into maybe a group of 3 or 4 people, okay? You search examples, you discuss, and finally you consolidate your examples, then you post them online. So often just one student will upload the answers, consolidated by all the group members. Okay. So they believe that after the teacher introduces some maybe difficult concepts, they don't really grasp, they haven't really grasped the concept. But after this doing, sharing, discussing, actually they can find more background information. Okay, they find more concrete examples online. Right, actually it helps them to understand those abstract concepts. And also students think that this kind of system can encourage particularly those shy students to answer questions and increase the motivation to learn. Often, when we ask questions openly, only those active students will answer your questions, right? Some shy students will just keep silent. But if you use this system, even they don't answer your questions, but they can contribute ideas, right? In a group discussion, they found examples, they can add examples, right? And finally, so the shy students can also see the contribution. So it's a way to encourage them, okay? So students indicate that if I don't use it, just a few students will do that, will answer my questions. But after using this Socrative, actually, I would think that normally 2/3 of the class are willing to contribute, are willing to engage, and discuss and share the answers. Okay. So especially helpful for shy students, okay, to share the ideas, increase the learning motivation. And also it helped me to check student understanding. If I can just use a simple multiple choice question, right? Okay, and then. If they, also I think that if I use this system, it's an easy platform for students to ask me questions. You show the written answers. If students just, don't understand, it's more likely for them to ask your questions. And this also can engage students in learning more in the learning process. Some students comment that actually, after teacher talk for a while, they need some time to digest the concepts, right? So they started to do something. They open the mobile device. They try to search examples. And they learn by doing. Another perspective, which I find is quite unique, is particularly when your class is composed of students from different nationalities. And, different people from different regions have accents, right? Difficult to understand sometimes. So students think that it's a wonderful system. When students, start to talk, they have something to refer to. Okay, in the front, for example, the answers, the written answers are there, right? So normally, after I show the written answers, I will ask some students, the group students, or maybe usually it's one representative to elaborate the answers. Okay. For example, previously I showed you the example for the metaphor of love. Students from different countries, regions, nationalities have very different views of love. The students find this very interesting, and they quite appreciate this. Okay, now student reflection of the online sessions. Okay. Remember in my course I used 8 face-to-face sessions and 5 online sessions. Okay. But actually I found that students' feedback quite positive. They think actually it's quite similar to the Socrates system. Basically, this online technology is kind of platform for students to share, discuss, and collaborate with each other. So students think that actually it can help them to have more critical thinking, and share ideas. Knowing each other's ideas, you know the weakness or the strengths of your own thinking, right? And often they comment that the tasks I posted in online sessions are closely related to the knowledge introduced in previous lectures. So they think this is very helpful. So the online sessions, can help them to engage in in-depth thinking, do more reading, discuss with each other. Okay. And also they comment that some of the tasks are very helpful. Some of the tasks are about classroom applications to help them to become a better teacher or to understand the students better. I think these are quite useful and practical. And also like the idea, of knowing each other's ideas, sharing, and then have a meaningful discussion, and then consolidate ideas within the group. Okay, they not only learn from each other, within the group also learned lots of things from other groups. Some students comment that receive lots of authentic and localized examples, particularly contributed by other groups. Okay, and they can use these ideas in the learning or teaching. Okay. Now, my own reflection. As I explained to you at the very beginning, try with some simple technologies. And you have to be flexible with students' willingness to participate or not. I remember when I started using the Socrates system, one student came to me and showed me his very old-fashioned mobile phone. He told me I simply couldn't participate in this activity. I said, fine, it's not obligatory. Okay, but later, he tried to use his classmate's phone to enter the answers. Okay, so it changed his way of learning. Okay, right. But using this, particularly like the Socrates book, is very time-consuming. So usually, I think 3 to 4 is maximum. Okay, usually 2 I think is fine. Okay, even in one 3-hour session, don't use too many. So after showing the written answers, very important, you have to give them some opportunity to talk, to elaborate answers. Okay? As a way to check the understanding, also for other students, to listen to the views, perspectives. Okay? As actually most students like this part very much. The written answers only serve as some prompt for them to talk. Okay? Just open the talk. It helps me to check students' learning progress, and also I can collect more live examples for future use. Okay? So I don't need to spend time searching for examples myself, less time. Okay? Personally, I think the use of these two simple online technologies helps students to search, share, and discuss in order to engage in learning and enjoy the learning process. And finally, my own conclusion is technology will not change pedagogy. It only helps the teacher to deliver the pedagogy. The online technologies only serve as a platform, for you to maybe, put resources, locate resources, and then you can have some interaction with the students. Or maybe it enables you to make students interact with each other. Okay, but all this, I see all this is kind of a type of learning, all these interactions. Okay, so this ends my talk. Now I invite you to try out this one of the simple systems, Socrative. So can you go to www.socrative, or you just Google Socrative, Socrative. Okay. So www.socrative.com. Okay, have you logged in? Okay. And then you choose student login, and then you enter this room number. But I don't know why this number is not. We also have some letters. Okay. You can now see it, right? Okay. So it's a capital letter, right? Capital UUMMLJ94L. I open a new account. My previous is just number. Okay. This one is a little bit complicated. Sorry?
Add a space.
Space. You mean this one?
No, in the middle.
Okay. Later. We can show. Okay. Have you entered? Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to launch the quiz. Just 3 very simple questions. It was okay. So I choose this. Okay, this is my quiz. Instant feedback. So you require names. Can you just enter a fake name? Okay, if you want to use your real name. I don't know why it's so slow today, But in the past it was really fast. I think the thing is, so technologies are not always reliable. So be ready to try out new technologies. Okay? I've been using this for more than 3 years. Very stable. But today, when I decide to showcase with you, and then I have some problem. Okay. I think it's a question of personal respect. I want to when they found they have attract lots of customers, they try to make it more complicated, right? But at the moment it's free. You don't need to pay anything for it. Okay. Okay, now meanwhile, do you have any questions you can ask me? Okay. Do you have any questions?
You said you use 2 to 4 times in one lecture.
4 is the maximum. But I think 2 to 3 is okay. But during a 3-hour lecture, I think you can use it for 2 to 3 times. So usually I do it after I lecture for maybe for 10, 15 to 20 minutes. It's a lot, you know, I have to stop.
And how many questions do you pose?
Usually I just post 1 or 2 questions. I don't make it very complicated. So you can just be a very simple multiple choice questions, right? Or can just a short answer question. They only have 3 choices. True or false questions, which I never tried. I think it's too easy. I often try the short answer question. And also sometimes the multiple choice questions. I think you can type Chinese, no problem. I think so. There's no problem. But I think the interface is in English. No more questions? I'm so sorry, you know. I mean,
Do you reload?
but I know there are many other similar systems like Slido, like Uclicker, something like that. I think you can, you just maybe Google student online. Okay, what is? I don't know, but I think Moodle is different, you know. But this student doesn't need, students do not need to register it, do their registration. They just enter the room number. So they don't collect, I mean, the system don't collect the private information. I think this is what students like about. It's different from like at a model, you know. For at a model, you have to register. Both students, teachers need to register that. For this, but I think for many others online student response systems, students do not need to, are not required to register, okay, to do the registration. Okay. Oh yeah. Next. Again, it's like that. It only happens today. Because I've been using it, I think, in April, it's okay. But I haven't tried it because we already stopped teaching for a while. Okay. I can share my PowerPoint with you, you know. You can, try to explore the system yourself. Do you have any other questions for the online session? Yes?
Mark mentioned at the outset that this is part of the PDG project. Could you describe the PDG project and could you describe how that project is connected in terms of the initiative?
Well, you mean, well, actually, I've been using this system for a few years. Okay. But it happened to be that actually we're having a TEG project. Okay. But actually, I've been using this, I think, since 2014. Okay. All right. For me, I think definitely, for example, like when I showed you this feedback, because afterwards, after actually we conduct some interviews. For example, we asked them to express the views. So this actually the views expressed by students, not my own observation. You see. So I think it depends. Certainly some students, they like this system. But again, if you have some students who do not like, who are resistant to technologies, perhaps they don't like it. You know. So you don't make it compulsory. So perhaps after posting some, before you finish the Socrative task, maybe you can invite students who didn't post answers, you know, ask them whether they are willing to share or not, but often those students are also silent. they don't, you don't share, but still, you see, well, do you have any, if you didn't post any answer, but you would like to share ideas with us, could you, now is opportunity for you to share, okay? We give them the choice. So they don't feel you force them to use this system. But after a few trials, most of them like to use this system.
And then I'm leading a PD project right now is promote mobile learning. So we're trying to collect good practices from students, how to use mobile technology to learn, and also good practice from teachers, how teachers use mobile technology to teach. And so we try to collect e-portfolios, teaching e-portfolios, of mobile assisted teaching, and also students mobile learning e-portfolios we put on our website and share with the members. We also want to organize a series of talks throughout the year, like today's talk. Last time I gave a talk, and in the future we will invite some experts in this field. They are in Hong Kong to show us the latest technology about mobile learning. So it's building a learning community about mobile learning. We will publicize our website later when we collect the field things up, and you will see all the resources available.
But just to be clear in my own mind, because I've gotten involved with the University Enhancement Initiative in LCS. In this model, you bring your own device aspect
Yes.
is an example of mobile learning. But having a not face-to-face session through Moodle is not an example of mobile learning. Probably somebody else.
Well, for the online sessions, students don't need to sit on a classroom. They can, actually, they don't need to even to sit as a group. So students will communicate with each other with their own mobile devices. Like often they use WhatsApp, for discussion. Or sometimes they can also use Moodle functions to interact with each other, right? So that's why I always specify a deadline for them to post the work. It doesn't matter whether you sit together or you sit in your own home, but you have to collaboratively and finish this, complete this task together. Maybe some students are responsible for reading, other students are responsible for designing tasks, the different tasks.
Moodle is actually an app on the phone as well. You can actually interact, discuss through the phone.
The discussion forum works on that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so it's also an example of mobile learning as well, but also for online sessions. Yeah. Because the online sessions are also compulsory. It's counted as one of those 13 sessions for attendance requirement. But it's a group work, so what you anticipate, that I think perhaps for different sessions, maybe different students will take the lead, because if they're particularly interested in some topic, they will take the lead. So perhaps they'll do more work, and the other student will do less work. It doesn't matter. They still learn from each other, is that right? Okay. It actually, they see some peer pressure, but when they see some other group produce some very impressive work, right? Well, maybe, next time my group will do better, is that right? Okay. So you can see that the quality from different groups, for each different session could be different.
You count the participation by see whether they have posted messages.
Yeah.
It happens then.
But all of them will do. Each group, all the groups will post the work, usually before deadline. Also, I think they found the task interesting, they will do it. It's related to learning. So that's why I have different, task 1 is easy. Normally it's a further understanding of the concepts, so it's a reading task. And further, task 2 is more related to application. They have to use the knowledge learned to design some simple, maybe teaching tasks. They found this quite useful. So that's why I explained in the end, I concluded in the end that the design of task is very important. I mean, the whole pedagogical design, not only just use of technologies. The task itself has to be interesting. It's not the use of technology, but I think it just make it easier. So students don't need to sit together, don't need to travel maybe for 2 or 3 hours to the campus to discuss, right? They can do work in different locations.
So it's not necessary to make all the students.
No, not at all. Yeah, that's what I like about these online sessions. So you see, 8 face-to-face plus 5 online sessions, very happy. So, but they have quite positive comments, at least about on the online sessions. I think it's quite useful. They don't mention it. It saves my time, but we know it. Yeah. So that's why I say you have to have very clear instructions. The deadline, specify the tasks, and start with easy tasks, a little bit more complicated, and also to receive feedback from the teacher and from other groups. But this is my way of doing it, but you can explore other ways, of conducting online sessions. Yeah.
How about the comments? It's great to hear that you have quite a lot of good points using electronic devices.
I think in one class, this is a pretty small for the comparative language studies. I think less than 30 students. But for one course, I have more than 40 students, or even maybe around 50. So so either 4 or 5 people in one group. I have about 10 groups, so it's still manageable. So if you group work, it's manageable. For those, I only use the Socrates.
For those very large.
Yeah, Socrates. Okay, but that's a large lecture, but I have my own group. Normally each group will have 30 to 40 students, right? Still manageable. I use 2 different systems. For online sessions, I think it will be difficult for very large class. But I don't think you can teach 120 students on your own. It's difficult. Normally we just take maybe maximum 2 groups, maybe like 60 to 70 students, right? But it saves your time but it doesn't save your time to prepare for the lesson because you have to think about the tasks. It saves a little bit of time, I think, because when after 5 sessions, I know what kind of tasks I should design. At the beginning, maybe you have to struggle for a while.
That's the thing. Maybe convenient, but it actually takes a lot of time to design the
Yeah, but I found the beginning I do, but later I found it's quite easy. So give them some reading or digest task at the beginning, and later some application and tasks more related to application, and I like it. So
With these systems, they are more willing to read the video.
more willing to.
More willing to read the video.
I think so. Then I only ask them to read 1 article. You don't give them too many, or you can give them choices. But I think like 2 or 3 articles, the other choose to focus on 1. I think they're more willing to do that. And the second task maybe is related to the first task. They have to first have some knowledge first, and based on knowledge they get, they can design some teaching tasks. Yeah. So you have to find some. You have to also select the articles more carefully. So often I will select some tasks which will give them some ideas for teaching. Our teacher students, are very practical as well. So often I ask teachers. So I don't teach phonology. So I ask my colleague Rebecca, can recommend a few good articles for me, so students can make use, if they want to teach phonology, So you ask help from your colleagues as well. If you don't have the expertise,
So for the soul critic, to use it in the lecture room,
Yeah.
in the classroom.
Yeah.
How about online? You just send them the room number and they still do it?
I never tried, because in this case, then I have to be there on particular time. Students have to, so that means if I use Socrates in this way, then I have to tell them, okay, maybe around 3 o'clock, p.m., you have to log in Socrates, and enter student login and enter room number. Okay, I never tried that. That might cause some inconvenience for me. I have to be there at 3 o'clock as well. Okay. No, I don't. I haven't tried.
But can you leave the system on like for an hour or 3 hours?
Is this possible? Oh, it's possible.
It's wrong doing that here.
I think it is possible. But in this case, the students cannot see other students' responses. Because the students, if you do it simultaneously, that means students are sitting in the classroom, they can see all these other students' answers. If you do it in this way, students will only submit the answers, then that's all, it's the end. But I think I use Socrates as a way to promote the discussion, the topic, rather than just collect written feedback. So my purpose is different. Yeah.
I'm just curious, do you find any differences between, I guess, the collaboration that happens when they're online versus the collaboration that happens or can happen in the classroom? Do you think that there's, I guess, I want to find out if you're getting more out of them when they're in a learning lesson or in class.
I think we need to do some research to find this out. But I guess, just like I explained to you, I think for different tasks, I think students may take different students may take lead, the leading role. Depends on the nature of the task, whether they're interested in the topic. So, so I only comment on the final product. So I assume that the final product is collaborated, among all the students. So that's my assumption. I haven't done research to find out where students how they. But often I don't think they will sit together. That's for sure. They will maybe WhatsApp each other, or talk or ring each other, like in a discussion.
Maybe it depends on the nature of the task. If it's really complicated, needs time, so maybe they want to work on their own first, then produce some discussion online after some research, rather than immediately telling you what they're thinking because they haven't read about it or.
But so far, I haven't received any complaint that, for example, in my group, only I would do the work, other students wouldn't do. I haven't received any such complaint. So I assume it is okay. I think if you give students responsibility for their own learning, I think they're willing to take more responsibility. So for me, I think it's also kind of a self-directed learning, but guided with guidance from teacher. Thank you very much. Okay. You continue to send me questions via email. Okay, if you're interested in how to use these two systems. Okay. Thank you.